best communication partners. So really when someone has a communication device, it's just gonna be another tool in their toolbox, right? So we all can text, we can write, we can gesture, we can talk with our mouth, we can email. You know, there's a lot of ways, a lot of tools that we use for communication. And the device is just gonna be one more tool. It might be their primary tool. Their mouth, anything they can say with their mouth is always gonna trump, right? We would never, if a child said a word approximation of something that we clearly understood, we would never say, oh, tell me on your device. If the child could point to request to something or reach, we would never say, oh, tell me on your device. Like, if I'm choking and I go, she wouldn't say, use your words. Because I'm choking, I can't use my words, give me that water, right? Like, you see what I mean? So we have to really learn, because there are actually things that we can do that are wrong, that will discourage the use of the device. Like, we never want to require or make it a compliance thing, right? AAC, augmentative alternative communication, not augmentative alternative compliance. So, you know, a lot of times I get this phone call, well, I can make him use his device. Okay, well, I could too, but I'm not in the business of making you do something. I'm in the business of wanting you to communicate in as many ways as possible, right? And develop a relationship with me. It's about developing the social. I hate to say it because we're in a school environment, but it's not about the academics. At least not at first. It's about learning to communicate as efficiently as you can, right? About anything, anytime, to anyone. So a lot of times some of our children have some speech that we think we understand, but that's because we know the answer to the question, right? Like, in a school environment, it might be, what's today? Oh, yeah, it's Wednesday. I mean, did you understand that I said Wednesday? No, but because you knew, I think you knew today's Wednesday, right? Right? That you knew my answer. So, again, it's not about testing. It's not about, what does this child know? It's about developing a relationship with each person that they can develop. And so, just in case you don't know, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Kym Heine, and I am a speech language pathologist. AAC is all I've ever done since 1982. When my son stuttered, I did not know how to help him. When my husband had a spinal cord injury and had swallowing problems, I don't know how to do swallowing therapy, because we didn't do that. And when I went to college, we didn't do swallowing therapy. So I'm like screaming for the speech therapist and get in here and help him, he's choking. And she's like, you're a speech therapist. And I said, I don't know anything about this, right? I only know about augmentative communication, and it's my passion to give somebody a voice. The company I work for is called PRC Satilo. It's a long story, but anyway, we've been around over 55 years or something. One of the very first companies in AAC. And our philosophy as far as the consultants is that we're all salary based, because your device is supported for its lifetime. And so, I can help you as much as you need. And you need to let me know, or if you don't, I don't know. Like, I don't have this telepathic way of knowing, oh, she needs help, right? So, that's a little bit about me and the company. What I want you to think about, because all y'all are preschool age here, is what school survival skills, so to speak, do kindergartners have when they arrive at kindergarten? Like, what are they able to do? Let's just kind of look at some. They're able to initiate a conversation, right? They're able to make choices. They're able to take turns. They're able to get somebody else's attention, express their ideas, communicate and interact And they do all of that using what we call snug. Oh, what's snug? And sometimes don't kindergartners give a little bit too much information? You should have been at my house, because Mommy and Daddy got you know, it's like my daughter teaches kindergarten now, she's first grade, she's like, woo, do I find out some stuff. Because they don't have a filter at that age, you know. But what is snug? Let's look and see what we can describe as snug. So this is a tip, can you see? Let me see.
You ever wondered what actors and actresses do when they have to get in shape really fast for a movie?
Okay, so this is what we would consider snug.
Well, I was just trying to make sure you have lots of orange juice. Why? Just so you can eat. Why do you know that?
Because there's a lot in there and I can spill some.
Why are you gonna spill it?
Because it's too much. It's icy and you're drinking it, it's going down.
Well, why don't you drink it like water?
But it comes out from these holes. That's why we get a lot of orange juice in there. So stop doing that. I can make a mess.
Where did she learn all that from? So, do you hear all the things she's saying? She's using big conjunctions. Oh wait, let me get
I
up.
spilled some.
Oh Lord. She's using like because. She's using ing. She's using past tense, eating, spill, right? And she's just able to tell it like this, right? That's what snug is. Snug stands for spontaneous novel utterance generation. So the language that we're giving your child needs to be something that isn't a pre-programmed message. ASHA, the American Speech and Hearing Association, tells us we need to have a device with a language that allows the person to do this, create a novel utterance. So if there's just a button that says, my name is Kym, I live in Madison, you know, I like London Fog from Vente with fat-free milk and sugar-free vanilla. Whatever. Then I don't know how to take single words. I mean, I can push that button and something come out, but I don't know how to take single words if that's the language that's been given to me and put them together to create that spontaneous novel message. And so what we're gonna be focusing on then is leading to what we call core vocabulary versus fringe vocabulary. And that's so again, our focus is gonna be on learning single words. That's how language develops. We learn a bunch of single words, 75 to 100, and then we learn to put those together to make a phrase. And it might not be grammatically correct. Me do it, right? I don't know how to use I when I first am talking about myself. I say me do it. Or I say me digged in a hole, right? And then what happens naturally is, as a parent or a communication partner, we correct that. Yes, you dug a big hole. So we correct or expand, recast, all these types of strategies to help that language develop. But the kind of vocabulary we're talking about, and that's your first handout, it says core in a nutshell, is if I gave you 5 single words that were all nouns, how would you use those other than to just request those items, right? Like I think the nouns are really funny examples. I think it's like, they're down to 5. Banana bubbles, I need a magnifying glass for this, right? Banana bubbles, puzzle, swing, and book. So you really couldn't combine those together unless you said you wanted the swing book, that means a book about swinging, right? Or a banana book, a book about a banana, or a puzzle book, right? You could maybe you could use the noun as an adjective, I guess, to describe a different type of book. But then look at those 5 words above those nouns. What are they? Somebody read them out to me.
Play, want, don't, stop, more.
All right, let's try to put those together to make a 2-word phrase. Somebody give me one.
More play,
More play. Somebody else.
want more. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. She's gonna be my go-to girl. All right, come on, somebody else. Don't stop. Don't stop believing. Is that the song? I don't know. I can't say. What's another one we could do? Want more?
Don't play.
Don't play. Don't play now. Don't be playing around here. Anybody else?
Stop playing.
Stop play. Right, you pretty much can take those 5 words and make any combination you want. And so if you flip that over, you'll see the 100 most frequently used words by toddlers. What they did is they mic'd toddlers, and they said, they just took language samples. They were just at play at a daycare. And those are the words that toddlers said the most frequently. You don't even see nouns on there, right? And so the research says if you teach these 100 words to your child, they'll be able to say 50% of what they want to say. Okay? So now, if you look at your manual board, that is an overlay copy of the Words for Life vocabulary, which is typically what most of your kids are all going to be using. You're going to see that of the 80 words that are on here, a big percentage of them are in that top 100. I think the only ones are like follow, write, maybe hear. There's just a few that aren't in that top 100. Now, you might be wondering, why would we give somebody like an overlay that looks like this with so many pictures? Why wouldn't we just give them big pictures? And because you can see when you flip it over that we can use a tool called Vocabulary Builder, which is typically what we do, to start off and limit the number of words so that it's not as overwhelming. But notice that go or eat or drink or turn, when you flip it back over, are still in the same location, right? Because what this is all about is the name of this vocabulary is called LAMP, Words for Life. Okay, LAMP stands for Language Acquisition Through Motor Planning. That's how language develops. We learn a motor plan. Mama. We're just playing with our mouth, someone's giving us some food, and mama, we're just like playing with our lips, and then mama kind of comes out, and guess who comes running and freaks out? Oh, mama's here, mama's loves you, you're mama's baby, you know, mama. And then the next thing he knows, something gets stuck on the top of his mouth, so we hear, da, 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 da. Who comes running? Not mama, right? And so that's how, it's a motor plan, and he knows every time he says dada, he gets dada, and every time he says mama, he gets mama, right? And so we're duplicating, replicating the same thing on the device. That once I learn a motor plan, I don't want to have to unlearn it. So yes, I could just take this limited number of words and put, I don't know how many are there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Pretend there's 15. And I could divide this into a 15 location big thing that I could just have you slap at. But when I want to expand your language, what would happen? I only have so much room on my overlay, on my device, on my screen. So I'd have to shrink the size of your picture as your language grows. What's that going to do? Change your motor plan, right? I know all of y'all use phones and get new apps. What happens when you get a new app? All the other apps move around. Next thing I know, I'm trying to check into the gym and I'm signed into my bank account. Like, no, I don't want to sign into my, I want to go to the gym. Where's my gym app now? Right? So this is what language acquisition through motor planning. I'm going to teach you a motor plan that you won't have to unlearn, right? Because your language is going to grow. And that's why it's called Words for Life. I don't know. I but I want a language that will let your child be spontaneous like that girl and do the past tense, do the ing, do whatever it is it needs to do, right? Without changing the motor plan. So that's kind of what's going on. So core words are, I like this definition that somebody said, ice cream is like, language is like an ice cream sundae. The core is the core vocabulary words. So 80% of what we say is core vocabulary. It's verbs, it's adjectives, it's adverbs, it's prepositions, it's pronouns, right? It's interjections. 20% of what we say are the fringe words or the nouns. Water, phone, pen, drink, whatever she's got there, glasses, iPad. But once we say that, the other 80%, so we go to order and we say London Fog, Venti, fat-free, milk, sugar-free, vanilla. Now, what do I say after that? I say, oh, this is nice and hot. Oh, I love this. Oh, I could just order another one, right? I don't re-talk about those nouns again, right? And so, I just like how she said the fringe words are the topping and they're very specific. So, your drinks should be different from her drinks and from his drinks and from my drinks, right? The names of your people and your family are obviously different. The places you like to go, the toys you like to play with. And so, you can have the ice cream, but without the toppings, it's kind of boring, right? And so if a device isn't personalized when you get it, it's not gonna be quite as meaningful because I can't really say the things. If I can't say London Fog, Venti, I'm in trouble, right? So, get it? Okay, and so, I like the ending there too. The toppings are what make the sundaes yours and make it fun to eat, and it can be different every time. So he likes Mountain Dew. What else we got beside us there? Just some good old water?
Green tea.
Green tea, like he's got that Mountain Dew in his device. So we got over here to drink, right?
Kombucha.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So the issue becomes, and I want you to think about this, are any of y'all bilingual? Anybody? No. Forget it. Okay. If somebody's in school that is a Spanish speaking, arrives in school as Spanish as their primary language, they are required by law to receive X number, and I don't know what it is in the state of Mississippi, I'm trying to find out, X number of hours per week of instruction as English as a second language, right? So that they can learn English. And who teaches them that second language? Someone who knows only French? No, someone who knows English. And is it just one person that knows English that's teaching them English as a second language? No, it's everybody, right? And so that's what we have to think about, that just because we've now given the child the device, are they gonna know how to communicate and speak in this language, Lamp Works for Life? The answer is no, because it's the same thing. If you give me a piano, am I all of a sudden a piano player? No, I don't know what to do with the piano. Maybe bang on it? Do I take lessons from a violin teacher? See what I'm saying? And so we have to learn that system. And I love this quote, and it's over 22 years old. But Carol Goossens is someone I mentored under way back in 1986. Spent 6 months with her fabulous therapist, internationally known in the field of AAC, and it was just like such a thrill to work underneath her. I was like, yeah, what do you want me to do now? What do you want me to do now? I mean, I wasn't getting paid or anything. It was just like, oh, wonderful. But let's read this together. When it comes to the yellow, I want y'all to say it. To achieve mastery in the language that they're learning, which in this instance is going to be Lamp Works for Life, the child must be inundated, that means like bombarded with, seeing the system used how?
Frequently.
So generatively means being able to say, want play, want cookie, want help, right? That's generatively. That's that spontaneous, novel utterance generation, that snug. So what does that mean? That means our hand is on this device, or this is why I gave you these. on here all the time. Here at the school, you're fortunate enough that the teachers have, and it's mirrored up on here. There's all kinds of ways. But Dawn can probably speak to this. Dawn's here up here. I don't know if y'all know Dawn, but she's been down this road for how many years now? When did he get his device? It's been 4?
Three
Three?
years.
How much do you rely on the manual board
All the time.
at home?
On a pool floaty, like
On your pool floaty, I love it. Yeah, all around the house. So for those of y'all that don't have a device yet, you know, you said in the bedroom, in the kitchen, by the bathroom sink. Why? Because we can say, oh, we gotta turn on the water. Oh, let me help you wash your hands. We gotta turn off the water. I can't do things upside down without my glasses sometimes. Right? Oh, now we're gonna get in the bathtub. Right? If there's one in the bathtub, mommy's gonna put on some soap. Whatever, right? So you need to know this overlay like you know your keyboard. If I say to you, where's Q, does your pinky left-hand finger know where to go? Maybe not, man, they don't know how to type that. Teasing. He does, he's probably better than me, I can look at my hands. So I'm just gonna, I just like to pick on men sometimes, where do I stop? I'll leave you alone, I'll leave you alone.
No, you're fine.
But you get what I'm saying, right? You have to know this overlay, because the same way that when we, with our mouth, are modeling something and we know what to say, right, with our mouth, we have to know how to say it on here or they're not gonna learn it. Terry can't do it in 2 sessions a week. You see the kids twice a week usually, or just once? Oh, she only sees them once a week, okay? It's gotta be a team thing. Our hand always has to be on here modeling, okay? Everybody needs to know how to model. Everybody needs to know the language, okay? And again, that's what this bottom line is too. We must view it as being the same as teaching a second language. And so, y'all might be leaving here. This is the ideal world. Because I'm telling you what, you get out to the next school level, and there aren't people that are trained on this. There aren't people, I just have someone right now, and this is like, I can't even comprehend this in my brain. The special education director reached out to me about 2 weeks ago and said, I need training for my staff. The parent asked for training in August. I had training in the territory, the area that they could have come to in person. How many times since August? 3 or 4 times. Full 5-hour day trainings they could have attended. She's asking for training in April. So the whole year has gone by and nobody's been able to do what? Inundate the child with the system how? Frequently, interactively, and generatively. And the bottom line is people are gonna say, well, I don't have time to learn this language. I don't know what to say about that. I clearly get it. You've got 50 kids on your caseload as a speech therapist. Your child is the only one that I see that uses this. I don't know what to tell you. It's like, take this home, put this in front of you while you're cooking and say, turn on, and turn on the oven. Put in, and say that after you put the casserole in. Get out to take it out. Learn this overlay at least, because I can't tell you the number of people that I'll go to, and I can see it all the time. They've had a child for 3 or 4 years. And I'll say, all right, let's practice saying some things. And they don't even know how to find something on this overlay. Like, if I say stop, they should know to go over here, right? And they don't. And to me, I don't have any sympathy, right? I'm sorry, I just don't. And I try to help, I try to do things to make it easier, but the bottom line is you are the ones that have to be your child's advocate. And you have to say, so on the IEP when you leave here, because again, this is the ideal world, you've got all the cooperation and all the willingness here that you're gonna ever have, right? and I travel the whole state, so I know exactly that there's no other place like this. But on your IEP, you can have that the team will receive X number of hours of training. Because if that had been on those people's IEP, this mother has 2 children, both have devices. They just got them in this last summer. If that had been on the children's IEP that said it's under supports for staff section, they would have had the training, or else they would have been out of compliance back in August. And a whole year wouldn't have been wasted. You see what I mean? And there can be things like collaborate once a month with an AAC specialist. Because you'll see that a lot of times. You'll see collaborate with teacher and speech therapist.
I'm sorry, so how many hours would you suggest putting on the IEP?
I would put a minimum of 6 hours for the year, at least 3 and 3. Because let me tell you something, I've been doing this since 1982. Guess what I just did last night from 6 to 7:30? Listened to a training. And what did I do? I took 3 pages of notes. Because there's always something I can learn from somebody, right? So it's not, because I get this all the time, well, I've been to her training. My trainings are never the same. I'm sharing new information all the time. I'm learning something every week. So don't, unless you're the expert, then I need to hire you because we're thinking about splitting the state up and I need help, right? So, but the other thing is collaborate. A lot of times they'll put on the IEP, collaborate between the teacher and speech therapist in the school. Well, what if the speech therapist doesn't know AAC? How can she really help the teacher, right? So that's the other issue. So put down with an AAC specialist, collaborate monthly. What does that mean? It just means you're sending me an email. It doesn't have to be me. They can hire somebody if they want, if the district wants to hire somebody. But you're just gonna maybe email or do a virtual meeting or let me see you working with the kid and let me say to you, you're doing a little bit too much of this, that looks great, change this, work on this. Terry and I started doing this in, where's the page? 94?
A long time ago.
Was that 94? No, Emily did her recording. Emily was 2 or 3, it was probably about 94. So that's how many years, almost 30, 28, I don't know how to do math.
28. I'm 93, so 20. I'm 29.
Does she still call me? Do I have all the answers? No. But, you know, sometimes just with the 2 of us together, it's like, oh yeah, we didn't think of that, right? Let's try this. So, you know, I always say to people, if I never hear from you, 2 things have happened. You've become an expert overnight and the child is a competent communicator already. Or what do you think the other one is? Not even using it. Because you should have questions, right? You should have questions. Okay, I'm getting to like on a
Is there
pedestal, aren't I?
is there a state or place outside of Mississippi that's doing this like well in their school system? Is that like?
You know, I wish
You've
I could
taken-
say, I don't really know. I used to be the consultant for Louisiana and it wasn't much better. Basically, it comes down to getting a teacher and a therapist that work together well and are willing to learn. And then a district that's supportive of that. Like I could blanketly say DeSoto County is doing the best job, but then I run into, you know, teachers. It does help if the district has an assistive technology director, like a position, but then I still run into issues with some of that as well, because sometimes it's not their only position. So then they really don't, it's just a title thing and they're really not doing what they need to do. They might care, but they're not given additional time. Ocean Springs is another good district, Jackson County, I think that's called. But again, it's like, I had this really great teacher, if I could send everybody to her, right? Whereas somebody else I'll run into and, you know.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's just basically understanding, right, how to, you getting as educated as possible and understanding, you know, that whole philosophy. What are you doing to inundate my child with the language that my child needs to learn? And, you know, there's a lot of things we can do to address that. Depends, some counties are more willing than others. Okay, let's look at this real quick. So I want you to see what we do in normal language, and I think y'all know these guys, right? They're like my favorites.
This video.
Wait, why do I not have any sound? Why is he silent? What did I just do? How come it won't get bigger? Here we go. I don't know why it won't get louder. Do you see what he's doing? And just watch. Oh, you can't hear it at all?
Can you turn the TV volume up?
The remote is. Oh. Okay.
Like, go somewhere else with that, but don't
Right,
bring
let
it
me start it back over since y'all couldn't hear.
This video says something.
They need to work on that, right? Yes. Did you understand it though? No. Oh, not this one. This is the finale of it. Yeah, this last one. That's what I was wondering. I don't know what they're gonna do next season because they did some stuff this time.
One of the things that Dad just did there for a minute too is the child said something and Dad responded, and then he was silent to let him take another turn. Last night, the training I took was specifically on working with children with their AAC devices that have Rett syndrome. And the therapist said her wait time, and we're gonna look at something about wait time in a minute. Just somebody guess how long she said her wait time was.
To get what?
To wait for a response from the child. So you elicit communication, right? You elicit a need to communicate, you provide an opportunity for communication. And then guess what she said, especially for children with Rett syndrome, because they have a lot of processing, which is the same with kids on the spectrum. There's a lot of processing that has to go on. Okay, I just heard her say something. She asked me what I think about ice cream or whatever the situation is. And I know what I think, but now I've got to look here on this page and see what words I could use, and then I gotta make my hand do, find that. So do you see the processing? So anybody wanna take a guess what her processing, her pause time, she called it, is?
At least 30 seconds, possibly closer to 2 minutes.
2! She waits 2 minutes. Okay, let's try it.
How old are these children?
Anywhere from, she showed a lot of ages, she sees them all the way through age 22, I
So
can't
all-
remember.
Wait time's the same.
No, we can't stay quiet for 10 seconds. So we ask the question, so what do you think about the doggy? Tell me what you think about the doggy. It's like, golly, I didn't even, doggy, where's the doggy? You know what? Or the other thing that we're guilty about is we say, so we've blown some bubbles. And then before the bubbles have even completely disappeared, we say, do you want more bubbles? It's like, I didn't even know they were gone yet. And we asked a yes/no question, which means I can just shake my head. We have to ask an open-ended question. That's what really elicits conversation. And that's exactly what he's doing here, right? And so what I want to show you next, so he's pausing, he's expanding on what the child is saying. So now let's look at Claire and Mom.
Spell your name. Can you spell your name?
So the first thing, what is Mom doing here right now? Is that about communication, or is that a test to see if she can spell her name?
If she can spell her name.
And Mom knows how to spell her name. What's going on here? But again, she just wants to show me what Claire can do on her device. But watch what Claire decides to do.
C.
So she left the spell
What are
page.
you doing?
More.
More what? got on panties. No, we don't take your panties off. Yep, bad. I what?
Now she went back to her spell
Oh,
page.
no.
Don't know why she did that.
Favorite what? I'm your favorite.
So, at first, what I thought she was doing was and she doesn't have everything showing. I thought she was kind of going left to right, row by row, just saying words. Because, panties was here. Let me rewind it, because now I forgot the sequence. Yeah, panties off. So panties comes off of this icon, the clothing, okay? But then she says off. Well, off is back up here, so she did go back up a row. But then when Mom said, no, we can't take our panties off, then she did say bad, which is right next to off. So, that's why I was kind of thinking, I think she's just kind of going, left to right and just kind of saying things. But then she says the word favorite, which is the book. This is when you're in what's called the sequence vocabulary. So when you have to hit 2 buttons to say something. So we read our favorite book over and over, a lot of times, right? So the book up to adjectives, blue, is, and I'm not gonna get into how the vocabulary is organized today, though, is how you say favorite. So, again, that's kind of like the second row, the third row down. But then, when Mom said favorite what, she did jump down here to this, which gives the word mom. So that is the next row down, but I'm not really sure, was she really, but that really went together too, right? Because she has 2 moms. She has a stepmom. This is her real mom talking, and she has a stepmom. So, and she could have said stepmom. But my point is regardless of what she's doing, if she is just doing left to right, top to bottom, communicating, Mom's doing what that dad did. She's doing what we call recasting and expanding on what the child is saying, right? That's how language develops. Now, she's not doing it on the device, which would be the ideal thing, right? Because again, she has to see how that language comes together. But she's still doing the right thing of, you said this, I'm gonna expand on it. And a recast would be, I'm gonna correct it if it was, not the proper English or grammar, right? So, I don't know, but the point is a lot of times we're gonna let your child be in, what we call, babbling or exploring mode. And that's the same thing as what an infant does with their mouth. And when an infant is just going, no, we don't say stop that babbling, right? We just let them, and that's how they experiment and find things. And that kind of leads me to the other thing too, is a lot of times we might start off with just a few of these words showing. We're not waiting for them to master it, and then we'll add more and more. And then we should always give them time to explore and play and find words at this level. Sometimes we're the ones that are afraid, right? So that same therapist that I listened to last night, and she has a blog, if you people like to do blogging stuff, Amanda Soper, I think it's S-O-P-E-R. Is that right, Terry? Did we look that up? Is that how you spell it? She says that she'll use what's called vocabulary builder with a limited number of words, only in very teaching situations, and then she always gives her kids the full vocabulary. I haven't quite tried that yet with all my kids, but you can kind of speak to that a little bit, Don, I think, because Elijah how many words do you think he had maybe when he was using vocabulary builder, if you had to guess? Maybe like 50 or?
I don't even know if you had that many.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened? You had the iPad?
I had Words for Life on an iPad that I would use to model, so I could model beyond his 15 words. And he would take the iPad from me to say finished, or he'd take the iPad and say mine, and he didn't have either of those words. And I was like, well, if he's using my full vocabulary,
and I go to church together, and we used to sit behind each other in the bus, like, did you sit behind me or in front of me?
Beside you, yeah.
Beside us, whatever, in the balcony until COVID. And then, I don't know what happened, we started going, anyway, we're downstairs now, and anyway.
For early service in the
Okay.
pastor of balcony, cause Elijah's in church with us.
Okay, all right, okay. So anyway, we would talk in church, and she'd say, what do you think about this? So anyway, go to church wherever your speech therapist goes. So maybe that's right, Catherine's there now too, that's right, but you weren't there, were you there in the beginning when, before COVID? Okay. All right, well, let's look at something else here, let's watch this YouTube video real quick. So aided language stimulation is the same as modeling, okay? And that modeling is you speaking and touching on the device. So let's see about what that looks like. Who used her device all day long? Everyone. And she learned it in a day? I followed the Facebook Words for Life thing, and Mom posted finally one day, she said, after a year, after a year of us modeling, he finally said his first few words on his device. Because some of the kids don't have joint attention and shared focus, right? And so there's other foundational skills that we have to work on, but in the meantime, we still need to be modeling. So even if you don't have a device yet, did you also make the apron? Did you do that?
No, but we had.
We talked about it, yeah. So, you can take like an apron or even a men's t-shirt and do the reversal iron-on thing, right? So then you can model all the time, because you've got that shirt on, right? I mean, there's just, wow, yeah. So then she learns to communicate, right? You can go to this website to kind of give you ideas about how do I do that at home. What's neat about this link is when you can watch that same video that I just showed you. You can do the question mark here that talks about, it's a little handout about modeling or aided language input. And then you can click on things, so like listening to music. What story about Elijah, he would be in, it was time for bed.
It started with a Sunday school interaction. I was nervous to send the device to church. Like, one, would he talk out of turn? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like in the middle of church, is he just gonna start mashing on his device? But then I wasn't sure how the other kids in his Sunday school class would respond being able to have an iPad in church. So we explained to the kids that these are his words. Like, this isn't a game. This is how he talks. And later I heard all the kids telling their mom that there was a kid in his class that used a computer to talk. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? And it just made my heart swell. But in Sunday school, they were using turn. That was a big key word that they were doing on a sit and spin. And if he said turn, they would turn in on the sit and spin. And we called over another girl to take her turn on the sit and spin. And Elijah's like, oh, well, it's her turn, so he went off. I'm like, no, Elijah, come on back. And he said turn, and that girl turned on the sit and spin, and a light bulb went off. He realized then that he could talk to a friend and tell a friend what to do. So we had an up-down game that we used to play in his bed. He loves to crash, and so he'd crash down on his bed, and we'd sit him up, and he'd crash down on his bed. And he wanted his sister to go down and up on the bed. So we were in his bedroom, his device was already charged, plugged in, charging for the night in the living room. He ran to the living room, unplugged his device, carried it in and said, down, and she fell out on the bed. And I got on my phone and started texting all the speech therapists. I'm like, guess what? He touched it. Because it clicked, and then it was functional language, and he talked to his sister for the first time. So she was excited.
Well, and didn't he also though, but that's when the manual boards came in, because then it was time to go to bed, and he would have one more thing he'd want to say. So he'd run out and get the device, and then he'd be like, so then that's when you finally put the manual board by the bed, because it was like, it was a postponement of going to bed.
Yeah.
Right, because if I have something to say, she'll let me talk. And so he'd run his device, come back to the bed and talk to her, and then it was like, no, we're never gonna go to sleep. So, yeah.
We've got these everywhere, just like here. There's one on the refrigerator, help open, and we have, yes, no aren't ideal words, but for Elijah, he'd take us to the pantry, and we'd have to pull everything out of the pantry to know what he wanted. And if he didn't want something, he would take our arm to like physically put it back. If he did, he'd run off. And we knew what that meant.
Right.
But anybody at our house didn't. So we finally put yes, no up at the pantry so he could say yes or no he wanted, just not run off.
Yeah, good
But we
idea.
have the stop sign by our exterior doors because he wanders. And stop is just a visual cue. Am I allowed to go outside right now?
That's good too.
They're everywhere.
That's called engineering your environment, and you can have just the one icon, or you can actually have a screenshot of, because again, Elijah and some of the kiddos are in what's called the full vocabulary, meaning they have to hit 2 buttons to say a word. So there's different levels of vocabulary, or files. One is just I'm gonna hit a button, it's gonna talk right away. The other is where I have to hit 2 buttons, sometimes 3. But I never have to hit more than 3 buttons. Majority of what I wanna say, around 3,000 words, the most frequently occurring, are 2 buttons. And then I'm back to this home screen. Another 2,000 or more are 3 buttons. And it's again, research-based. I say put more than I say open or close. So put would be 2 buttons, open and close would be 3. You know, each. To say open would be 3, to say close would be 3. So you can have the screenshot as well, so that if I have here and I need to open the door, I can see exactly that it starts with this, and then it goes to the next icon, and then the next icon, and so there can be arrows to kind of show me. Or it can be a linear visual support, so we can just show 1, 2, 3, but then you don't know really where those are on the board, which is why I like the screenshots. The next thing we need to talk about though is some stuff we need to learn about how to prompt. When never really wanna do any of this, and that should be, I don't know how you're thinking in order or what. Oh, yeah, let me just talk about real quickly. So the next handout that really was in order was this Kym's 480. So those are a lot of the words that I like to start off with. And on the back, these are where you can write down the nouns that need to be added to the device. So some of that can be done ahead of time, so that's that. But the next one is this, it's just not in color, because it was gonna cost me 15 cents in black and white, or it's gonna cost me 70 cents in color. So we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna physically take their hand, because they can do it, right? If they can push a button on your phone to get to an app, right? Or turn off the light switch, or pick their nose, or whatever, they can, so they don't need any assistance, okay? This is really only for someone who's visually impaired that can't see the icon, and you're helping them learn, you're taking their hand for a ride, and you're helping them learn how to, right? Because if we do this physical, they're gonna rely on it. They're gonna take your hand even and say, do this for me, right? The only time I might do the physical is just really also briefly, just to help them get the feel for it. This is what you're gonna do.
But if they,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
but if they do have vision issues,
Mhm.
then
Well, it depends on how much of a vision issue, and you might wanna just be using high contrast icons. There's a lot of things you can do to the overlay. You can also give them what's called a tactile key guide, and that actually has raised areas, right?
okay.
You wanna do as little as possible even. If there's no vision at all, you have to, and I have a lot of kids that have no vision at all.
Well, we have vision, but, he has what they, we're not verbal, we can't say it, but
Right.
the eye doctor thinks that there's some double vision going on, and some inability to focus, and,
And so the tactile key guide, yes, I get them. We have a key guard, a touch guide, and we have a tactile key guide, and like, what do we have? I don't know. But anyway, that might be a good start for him. Well, we can look at that. I don't know. Or have we been doing taping or anything?
Yeah, I think taping a
Yeah,
lot.
and taping can help too.
To get
There's a lot of
started.
different things we can do.
But once they learn the motor plan, you don't need that. I mean,
Oh,
they
wait, who was
usually-
it, yesterday? Oh my gosh, our little rock star. And Terry had never tried him on the the sequence, and
It was actually Declan, Erica's son.
well, I thought it was the other one
Oh,
that was
was it?
turning his head away even. No, but that was our first guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he learned real
That's right.
quickly the motor plan for go, so it's, hitting that frog and green light, but then he has to come up here to do the second button when you're on what's called the sequence vocabulary. And at one point, so Terry was here and I was here and he was in the middle, at one point he was looking at me and just like, he was like, I already learned this, right? So that's why the importance of the motor plan never changing, unlike our phone when the app adds, and then I think I can go right here. Like I can find Facebook on my phone, can I find it on yours? No, I'd have to search, right? So we're not doing the physical help, or if we are, we're fading it really, really, really fast, like within minutes. So where are we starting on this hierarchy to try to teach the language to the child? Where do you think we're starting? There's no, just take a guess, I'm not gonna go, oh, you're stupid. Anybody?
The physical prompt.
No, remember, we're not doing the physical prompts.
Okay.
We're not doing that. So
Modeling?
we're modeling. Just like when a baby's born, what are we doing? We're modeling language. You guys have been doing it for however many years your child's been alive. You've been modeling language. But it's a language they can't learn because of whatever's going on with the connections from their brain to their mouth, right? They might understand it up here, but they can't get it out. But we have to model, and it might be months, even a year, right? After we're doing a lot of modeling though, we've gotta come up to the top. And we've gotta create the need to communicate. have a need to communicate? No. So if every one of the snacks Elijah wants were at his disposal, if he could go out the door, if he could get to whatever, you see what I mean? We have to create needs to communicate, and then we have to pause. And notice the pause says so many seconds, 10 to 20 or something like that. You might want to try the 2-minute thing. I don't know. But it's gonna vary for your individual, right? For your child. Then, if that doesn't get it, if we're silent for a few minutes and we still don't see them go to their device, then we want to just kind of go, like, can we say something here? But still nothing with our mouth. Then we might show them the object of interest, right? So an environmental kind of cue. Then it's an open-ended question. We do not want to ask yes, no. We do not want at this point to say, do you want more bubbles? Because why? They can just use that other communication tool of a head shake or a reach towards the bubbles. And also, if at any point in this, so we pause the activity and we kind of go, and then the child reaches for the activity, the object. That was a tool that we shouldn't ignore. We shouldn't say, tell me on your device. Because that's not respecting the use of that tool. The same way if I'm reaching for her water, right, she needs to respect that other form of communication. We just, at that point, if we get another tool, we bump down to modeling and we say, oh, so let me get you, or here, let's make this go, or whatever the target word was that we were trying to work on. Does that make sense? And you model. If you don't get anything after that open-ended question, like what now, or what should we do, you can kind of give a visual, you can kind of, point towards the device, or a lot of times I just kind of move the device towards them. And then if the child is not echolalic, do y'all know what that means? It means a child that repeats after you. You can give them 2 choices. So a lot of times you could say, oh, well, should we do more, or are we finished? And the reason I say if they're not echolalic, because they'll just repeat the last thing you said, right? They'll just repeat finished when they really don't want to be finished, right? And then if I still don't get an answer after I've given them 2 choices, I'll model what I think they don't want. So I think they want more bubbles, but I'll model, I guess we're finished, and I'll start to put the bubbles away. How do they let me know that, lady, I wasn't finished with those bubbles yet? They're gonna maybe grab the bubbles from me, right? Or try to go after them. And then I can say, oh, I'm so silly, you wanted more. So you kind of see how that works? You're working your way down this prompt hierarchy.
I'm just saying hi to everybody.
Thanks for letting us come.
Is it cool enough? Are y'all cool?
Yeah, we're good.
Y'all let me know pizza.
So everybody on the team, though, needs to know this prompt hierarchy. Because guess what? Your aides in the classroom, they don't want their babies not to do right. So they're grabbing that baby's hand and making him say that whatever, right? So it's real important that these are communication partner strategies, and these are the things that we can do wrong that can get everybody so confused and not even want to use their device. Because again, it's not about compliance. So see, when I say, what now? That's very open-ended, and you might say stop. You might say more. You might say like. You might say not. I'm letting you say what you want to say, not making you say something that I think you should say. You see the difference? So everybody needs to learn that prompt hierarchy. Let's look at Lydia and her mom.
Oh, you want me to come over here? I'm coming here.
She's just leaving her finger on there.
Now what do we do?
And Lydia used to require, she would only do things with hand over hand, and so we had to, that was a real challenge
Oh, you want to play?
to fade that from her.
Okay, let's play. What can we play? You want to play ball?
This is only gonna be so sideways for a second. When you ask a sibling to videotape, this is what you get. Lydia has limopraxia as well as oral, so see how long it takes her brain to say, make my hand go? That's that processing time, right?
Okay, let's do it some more. Okay, ready? Good job. My turn.
Lima model turn. She's being quiet, I love it.
Good throw.
Lima's modeled good.
Oh, it's your turn? Okay.
Okay, I think you get the idea.
Whee! Good.
So then, again, this is just a quote I'd like you to see here. Waiting expectantly, sometimes silence is the best way to encourage AAC use. And I want you to also know that research way back from the late 1998, all that time, that hand-over-hand modeling combined with the verbal prompts is actually going to limit the effectiveness of just the modeling that we would do on the device, right? Passive modeling was overall significantly more effective in teaching a language than taking a child's hand and making them do it. So that's not just me talking here. And I can give you that resource if you want. So this is part of the reason why I just love my job, is Lydia is a wonderful story. Her therapist, and I'm gonna cry, her therapist worked for her for 4 years, from the age of 5 to 9, gave her 4 big pictures, ball, monkey, drink, and tissue, and would move them around because she wanted to make sure that Lydia understood what she was saying. Well, first of all, monkey stood for singing, what's that, 5 little monkeys, or whatever the 10, or whatever the hell the number is. Ball meant she got a ball to play with. Juice meant she got a drink. And tissue, Lydia suffers from chronic sinus stuff, and that means that wipe her nose. Do any of y'all know a child who wants a tissue and wants their nose wiped? So the whole point was, the therapist would move him around to make sure she really knew what she was saying. Okay, well, I know what I'm trying to do when I go to the gym, but my app moved, so whatever, right? So now I'm in the bank. But then that didn't change the words. Am I gonna ask for a tissue? Do you think I want you to sing that song for 4 years? And I don't have to point, I can just slap, because you've given me a big picture, so I don't have to I can say any of those 4 words anywhere in that area, so it's not a unique and consistent motor plan. That's not how I can get into an app. I can't just slap my phone, right? So anyway, long story short is she basically told the mom, well, Lydia's just too low functioning. And that just makes me sick to my stomach when I hear that. You know, she hasn't learned this. I want to just say, maybe you need to learn a little bit more about motor planning and language, because these aren't gonna, you know, it's back to what I said, the core versus fringe and all that. So anyway, mom came to one of my trainings, learned about motor planning, learned about core words, and had me come see Lydia. And she just blossomed, especially when mom and everybody learned how to do. So that first video you saw was in October. This was Christmas Day. I get a text of a video. And just kind of watch what Lydia's saying here and watch what's happening. So they're playing with this toy that she got. So she said in, and her hand caught on the way down and said on by mistake. But in, put the ball in mom, so she's using that to direct mom. So mom's pausing and waiting for her to say go. Okay, so here's where you gotta understand your child. So when Lydia starts to get tired, which again, the whole thing was, she's doing so great with her device, I've got a videotape, she's gotta do it longer, Kim's gotta see this, you know, so you gotta kinda get like, we're kinda getting tired of this, mom, and whatever. When Lydia's tired, she starts doing that. Okay, so you saw her do that, and mom said, are you okay? Because mom knows that that's what that means. So then watch. You okay? Now watch this.
You're good, all right.
Do you remember what mom would model after Lydia threw the ball? Good, you did good, right? This is only 2 months later, y'all.
You want mommy to make it go? Oh, you can help. Oops.
Mama meant to say help, but she said stop, because they're right beside each other. So, and she acknowledged Lydia reaching up. She didn't make her use the device. You see the difference?
Oh, I love this game too. It's so much fun. Are you finished?
And Mama kind of knows what's going on at this point. So she used up to direct her activity. She used in to direct her activity. She used good to describe how she was feeling, that she was now good after getting that hug from Mama. And she used love to comment and describe what she thought about her new toy from her stepmom. And she's now, I mean, this again, I don't remember what year this was. She went from, and mom didn't want to do it. I said, I think we need to bump her up to the next level where she has to hit 2 buttons to say something. And she said, she'll never be able to do that. And I said, let's give it a whirl. And so what we did was we introduced the new word. She was using vocabulary builder, so she didn't have a ton of words. We introduced the TV button, the watch button. And when you hit that, I made it so it didn't say watch right away. So all the other buttons were still what we called one hit, touch, talk. But I made this, not say anything, but guess what came up on the second row where it's blank, her favorite one. TV shows. Oh, it didn't take long at all. If I hit this button and I hit this button, I get Coco Melon. If I hit this button and this button, I get Sid the Science Kid. If I hit this button and this button, I get Blue's Clues. Like instantly almost, she learned. So I said to Mom, remember what you said? You didn't think she could do this? Right? It's all about motivation, right? It's about what I want to say, not about what you want me to say, okay? And so, this is another good quote to remember too, and to share with teens. Communication is hard for an AAC user. We should be couching it in something enjoyable. Don't layer hard on hard. So if we're learning our math times tables, right, like that's hard. We're not gonna layer learning. So many times y'all again are in the ideal situation. You're getting this young. I get kids who are 10, right? What have we been doing for 10 years? I don't know. Like really, we've just been passed to one speech therapist to another. We're still working on trying to get him to imitate sounds. Okay, really? ASHA, American Speech and Hearing, says that by 2 years of age, they are not babbling and imitating after you. You better be looking at using augmentative communication. And that's what Terry's so good about here. You know, she's gonna be on top of it. She's gonna be teaching them signs. She's gonna be introducing other forms of communication. And some of you might be saying, wait a minute, that means you're giving up on my child's speech? No. This is just another tool, and the research shows it's something called multisensory conversion. The more motor neurons, different types of motor neurons that fire together simultaneously, They converge together to create new pathways. So what's happening when you're using a device? What motor neurons are firing? The kinesthetic, the motor movement part of it. The visual, you see a word and you get an immediate reinforcement visually of something. And the auditory. So I'm getting an auditory signal from the device. That's what's missing from sign. When I do this sign, there's no auditory signal coming from me. So that's one less motor neuron that fires. Does that make sense? Not saying don't ever use sign. I'm just saying that the research shows the more motor neurons that fire together simultaneously wire together to create new pathways, and that's why the speech develops. If it can, okay? It's not always everything. So, building connections and figuring out where language fits in over time. It's about that social connection. It's about joy. If I don't see joy, you're not learning. And so don't make this about, work. Okay, make it about fun. Let's look at this video, and this will prove fun. So the backstory of this is Jada was in the doctor's office waiting with her mom to get her shot. And mom was sitting in the chair, with her, like, the walls back here, and Jada was facing her. And mom wears the device a lot so that Jada can talk. Anyway, she made mom hit her head. And mom modeled on the device, ouch, Jada, you hurt me. So Jada made mom hit her head again. So mom goes, ouch, you hurt me. Jada's just laughing and laughing. Makes mom hit her head again. Ouch, you hurt me. Jada laughs and laughs. The nurse comes in. Jada takes one look at that nurse. What did she say on that device? So mom texted me on the way home or called me or something. Jada learned, ouch, this is how it happened. And I said, oh, you didn't get a video of that when she's talking to the nurse, right? She said, no, but I'll do that when we get home. So this is lying in bed, and Jada, what you're going to see mom do, Jada has microcephaly, and she has a lot of what's called ataxia, so she's shaky. And they're in bed, and so there's even less stability because we're on a mattress, right? So you're going to see mom kind of help her a little bit, but then she's going to fade that. Puts her hand under. There's that little bit of it, like giving her some stability, because again, the mattress.
Ouch! Oh! Ouch! My head! Oh no! Ouch!
I think that's the last time she kind of helps her. I think this next one, watch this next one.
Please.
Okay, so ouch on the sequenced vocabulary goes from the interjection.
Ouch! Oh no!
I meant to
Oh,
spell it. Goes from the interjections down to where the location where the hammer is on the second page. If you just hit the interjections twice, you get the word that you see on there, which is please, okay? Well, what happened there was Jada accidentally just came back down on the same button and said please. But I'm gonna replay it and I want you to see what happened. She knew she made a mistake because she didn't go right back to mom and start banging her head. She corrected herself and did the proper sequence. So watch, roll again and you'll see. This is how I know she knows what she's doing. Oh wait, I think I went too far. I mean, I didn't go far enough. Hang on.
Ouch! Oh, ouch! My head! Oh no!
Here it is.
Please.
See how she doesn't go to mom? And see how mom's quiet? And then Jada's looking, and now she gets the right motor plan, and she did it by herself. So again, it's got to be about fun. Now, I'm not recommending that you let your child beat your head against the wall. But that's what it takes to get it to be fun, right? So that, I believe, is the end of my PowerPoint. supposed to end in 10 minutes, is that right? Is that right?
Yeah, and if parents want to, you know, like if you need to leave, go ahead in 10 minutes. But if you want to stay a little longer and ask him
Yeah,
questions.
I mean, what
she
I
could
would wanted
continue
to
a
do,
little bit.
talk about a couple of things real quick. One thing that might be helpful that I showed Terry is creating a notebook for y'all, where it has different sections. Because like you've already gotten some handouts and it's like, what do I do with these? How do I organize these? And what can be in one of the sections is, you have to learn the vocabulary, right? Well, how do you learn the vocabulary? You can take a class online. You can just play with the device. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you learned, how you got through that?
Really, it was, I did so many trainings for everything, language, ABA, just trainings, and you learn to talk differently, and then and then it carries over to everything. Like I would be at a friend's house and I start talking to her social kid, but then my friend noticed how much more attentive her child was to me because I was engaging and repeating, and the kid knew that he was valued and had my full attention. But a lot of times after we put Elijah to bed, my husband and I both would just sit and explore and figure stuff out. Especially after Elijah had full vocab.
5,000 words, going
He
from
would come up
50
with
to 5.
words that we didn't know where they were. Especially in therapy, one day he needed a break, so he asked for iPad, and the therapist was like, well, let's finish this one task. If you finish this, we'll get you a break. He said iPad again, and she's like, no, you need to finish your task, and then you can have an iPad. He turned and said lounge. I don't even know where the word lounge is. And then he grabbed the iPad, and he just like laid out on the beanbag, and he took his break. So then I'm like, well, where's lounge? And I had to go find it. But
Well-
he used it appropriately.
But I think that's the key. What you're saying you did was you played with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, you can't learn first of all, you can't teach something you don't know. So I've been telling you, you need to model. Well, if I don't know it, how am I supposed to model it? And then people will look at this and they'll say, well, this is too hard. This is too overwhelming. This is whatever. Okay, English is pretty overwhelming too. Like, why can't we say dig? Why isn't every word ED? Like, why is there Doug? Doug to me is a boy's name. I mean, we're like, what? Like, really? I don't know. But, one of the things you'll have on your device is it's this feature called Word Finder. So, and your vocabulary, I mean, so if we want to look up the word, this one we should know because it's on our screen. It shows you how to say it, so that's what that linear sequence looks like. But the nice thing is this guide me feature, where it's gonna stay there until I actually make the selection.
Help.
So that's one way you can learn. Again, just exploring. Some people will go to the first button and then just look, what's said underneath that button. But I think the main thing is you can take a class online that explains how the vocabulary is organized, or you can also, if you're not like an online watchy kind of person, you're more of a book person, there's a workbook that you can do you can do it in sections, right, where you have to take a little quiz and do a little activity each time. So that's another way. A lot of times, what I see with teams is somebody will say that they took the class, like the teacher or the aide or whatever online. There's no way for us to know if they did. But then this way with the workbook, I can see what they've completed. I wouldn't give them the whole workbook and say, do this by tomorrow, right? I'd give it to them in sections. So that's kind of might be what is in one district actually did this in Picayune. They made a workbook for each teacher and a binder for each teacher and a binder for each parent. So that could be what's in one section. How you program could be another section, right? the vocabulary is organized, things about core vocabulary like I just gave you can be another section. The manual board, a copy of it can be here. There's also this handout I didn't give you, but this organizes by parts of speech the words that are on this main overlay. And so you could even do a little contest with somebody, even if it's a sibling, and they can call out a word, and then how fast can you find it, right? Because again, if you don't know this overlay, so then you can't, if you don't know this overlay, and now you need to model a word like help, but you're just even trying to find help. Do you see what I mean? How about this? Take the overlay and cut it into 84 pieces and put it together. Could you do that? Because you should. Could you do that with your keyboard? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, if you don't know where the word is, like, I'll never forget, I remember exactly where I was, I know who the child was. It was someone that left here and went to another school. And it was a year down the road, and he still only had this many words, or maybe a few showing. And the school therapist called me and said, underneath the go button, I need to program on the second line. So see, when I hit the go, that second row can be where I want to go, McDonald's, Burger King, Chuck E. Cheese, whatever, right? You can put it in that second row. She said, I need to put some places that he wants to go. I need to program it. Will you help me do that? And I could do it driving down the road. Yeah, you're going to hit the go button, so you have to get to this page, and then I'm telling her, you know, I'm getting ready to say whatever. Give her the steps. So I say, all right, start off. Are you on the main page? Can you see the go button? She said, where's go again? She's been working with him for 6 months. And she didn't know where go was with only these few showing. I thought it was going to be like whatever her name is in that fried green tomatoes that just rams into the person in front of them. What's her name? Tawanda! I wanted to turn into Tawanda. I was like, seriously? You don't know where go is? And you've been seeing him at least once a week for 6 months, 7 months? What does that tell you? Right? So do what you can. You can download our software onto any PC for free. You can't put it on a Mac because it's an app. And so Apple doesn't want you to be able to download something they charge you for onto your Mac computer, right? Which would make sense.
What's the name of the software?
The software is Lamp Words for Life, right here. Yep. So what some people do too is like they did, they buy it for their iPad. A lot of people will advocate, there's a lot of research that talks about mirror neurons. So we have mirror neurons that let us imitate what we see. And so the ideal thing is what you have here at this school, what you won't have when you leave, unfortunately, is for the device to be the individual's mouth, right? So then what does that mean? How do we model on that? Well, we need to have a teacher talker. We need to have an iPad with that vocabulary on it, and that's where we model. And our mirror neurons then fire. How about if I start to yawn right now, how many of y'all will yawn? That's a mirror neuron kicking in, okay? And so the same thing, there was a research done by Dr. Banaji at LSU, dual device modeling, and how did that affect, how much language growth did that bring? And so, you know, you can ask your district. A lot of them got mega money for COVID, and a lot of them bought a lot of technology, which includes iPads, and they can download that software.
With Elijah, every kindergartner has an iPad, so they just bought a multi-license. So there's like 10 iPads between teachers and students that all have.
And so they're using the iPad to model and not his device. Yeah, I mean, if I was trying to teach you how to say a word, I'm not sticking my fingers in your mouth if you were verbal, right? So so the ideal thing is to have a second device. Okay, I know I could talk forever because obviously this is my love. I'm happy to, stay. I don't have anywhere to go and talk individually. If some kids are here and you want to see us do something with somebody, we could do that, we can do whatever works. The activity I didn't get to that I would challenge you to do is that last page is a blank overlay. Well, there's two. This is a customization sheet. But the challenge that you can do is take a toy. So I looked at all your inventories. I didn't ignore them. All of them show that your kids like a lot of sensory stuff. Try to stay away from the screens. I know that's a tough one, right? Try to develop more interest and look at it from a sensory. So I don't know if any of y'all have one of these. I am out of here. I am done for the day with this, okay? Now your child might not like it. But the idea is if I gave you this, what are 4 core words that you would use to let me know? So we're making it, you could even use, if I can get it on here right. So we could even use go, we could use stop, we could do up and down, right? But then if I gave you another toy, right? Now, how could we use up, down, and go? How could we even if I said fast and slow with this, right? So now, I could just do go if I wanted, but I could also say up, and I could say down. I could say up, I could say down. And yesterday, a little boy accidentally hit fast. And then he went. I'm like, you don't like that. So we need to do it slow, right? So you see, the ideal thing is to learn what's called repetition with variety. That I can use the same words for a lot of different activities, because your child needs to learn the same way that we use run. Well, I'm gonna run to the store. Does that really mean I'm running to the store? I'm gonna run for election. I have a run in my hose. That water's gotta stop running. My nose has gotta stop running, right? I'm gonna run a marathon. So that's what your child needs to learn too, and that's what Dawn's talking about, talking differently. We have a limited number of words. We need to learn to use them in a variety of contexts. So we have to learn to talk differently. We don't have spin, but we have turn. So he was sitting on a sit and spin, and could say spin, but spin wasn't available, so we're gonna say turn. Does that make sense? So that's the only thing we didn't do that we can do, or whatever. Or we can ask questions, or we can go home and get a latte or something, I don't know.
Where do you find the online training right now?
So on our website,
It's printrom.com.
yeah, so underneath education, and then on demand are our classes you can take anytime you want. There are some that'll be live as well, but then you have to take them at a certain time, right? There's certain ones I highly recommend. The main two are the vocabulary, how it's organized, right? So you understand that. This one called Building Communication with Aided Language Input actually shows us what we do wrong. Like the research says, this is what as communication partners we innately do wrong. And these are the things you need to replace those activities. There's also AAC in the Home, tips for parents. There's a lot on the AAC and Autism website as well. A lot of trainings, a lot of things by parents, a lot of success stories. Even if your child doesn't have autism, it's still the approach and the vocabulary, and so you can do a lot of trainings on there. Is my email or anything on anything? Who knows? Yeah. Did you see it somewhere? Yeah, and email me, and if my cell phone's not on there, I'm happy to give it to you. I'm the type of person that I'd just rather answer the phone if I can answer. Probably the only day I tend to not is Sunday. But I just want to solve the problem, right? I'm not gonna, anyway, so.
Yeah, so Kym is the representative for the company of the devices that I generally use here. And she covers all of Mississippi, and she's free. So anytime anytime you have a question, that's what they do, they pay her to help us. She comes at least twice a year, a lot of times more. I was texting her at 8 o'clock last night asking her questions. So I mean, like she said, we have a long history together, but.
Do we love that all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in our school, I wanna tell y'all, our school is not perfect. Every time I come to one of these trainings, I'm gonna cry, I learn something new. So I made a list today of the things I need to change. But, we really do try hard. I try to train the teachers, some things that y'all probably don't realize that we have because we haven't had a great way until the last couple of weeks to get the new parents on. But we have a parent of the Little White House Facebook page. And if you will, go on your Facebook and look for it and request to join, all I have to do is add you. And every unit, I put handouts of the core words that we're working on. Our teachers work on them every day in every class. Outside the door, you see the word of the week signs. That's the word we're working on this week. We're working on like this week.
And look, like is right here. So see, even if you don't have a device yet, you can be violent, and so carrying that home and home. Oh yes, I know you like pudding. I know you like Cocomelon. I know you like mommy. You're learning about things you like at school.
And the handout that I put on the Facebook page, I made specifically for parents. Excuse me. And every week I put a video on there of me showing you where the word is on the device and how to sign it. And I put a handout that shows you ideas of how to use it. So if I give you the word go, then I give you the name of some toys that you can use with that word, and I give you suggestions of how to use it. So it's hard to get everybody together all the time, but I hope next year we maybe can start periodically, maybe monthly, offering time that you have a chance to come in and us work together, you know, like as a group and ask questions. But I can't know what your child needs if you don't tell me. You need to tell me what you do at home that you wanna talk about. And if you'll tell me what you do at home you wanna talk about, then we'll get those words and I'll show you how to use them. Right, you know, if I don't know that, I'm just teaching them words that I use in therapy and we can use in class. Well, that may not even be a word that you ever even use at your house, you know, so that's important for y'all to communicate to me, what you want and what you need. And I need to add more vocabulary. Kim knows I'm the worst. I'm slow, because I want them to be able to use what I give them and understand what I give them. But I totally understand modeling is huge, and if you don't have enough words on there to model, then you can't teach them.
You have to have language to get language.
That's right. So I add more words to everybody's.
Okay, I don't have enough toys for everybody, but I have a little present for most everybody. Does anybody, like totally aversive to, anybody want the noise too? This makes no sound at all, but it's one of those fidget spinners, like who's just dying for that one. Okay, but you gotta tell me all your words it's gonna use. Okay, who wants a pokey thingy? Like, I don't know why kids like think this is the greatest thing in the world, but does anybody do it like that? Okay, then I might have enough of these for everybody. They're little light up toys. Okay, I might not. I might. Dawn doesn't get one. Are you guys together? Yeah. Okay. Who didn't get something yet? Okay. Looky there. Just enough. Sorry, guys. You're teachers, right?
Yeah, she's a parent.
Oh, parent too?
Yeah, we'll get her.
Okay. Are you sure? What she like? You sure? You sure? Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming, y'all. I know that this is, takes time out of your day, but
All y'all work.
appreciate y'all coming.
This is a huge group, and I'm
Well,
so
at
excited.
least you kind of know what, you know what I mean? Like, kind of, you're not maybe in the panic, if you don't have your device yet, you're maybe not in the panic
not in panic mode. I'm
Good,
just,
good.
I know we've got the